Hello everyone, my name is Faith Motegi and this is my platform Parenting Conundrums. Our ongoing topic on loss and grief, but now specific ages or age groups, and they are not set in stone, okay? So by the time I say 12 to 18, it doesn't mean that an 11-year-old could not exhibit the same or a 20-year-old could not exhibit the same. They are not set in stone. So we are looking at children and how they view loss and grief, or more specifically, how they conceptualize death. So today's age group, age set, I remember there was a difference back in class. So we are looking at 12 to 18-year-old boys and girls. So in this case, we're not discriminating against gender, or we're not putting them in boys, girls, but it will be interesting to see whether how do boys view death and how do girls view death. Is there a difference? I believe there is. So as the previous videos have been leading to, I have been letting you know it is best for you to let the child know that death has occurred as soon as possible. Now you're looking at a teenager, an adolescent, it depends with which phrase you prefer. So at 12 to 18-year-old, most likely for in the school system that I went to, education system that I went to, or yes, by the time you're 12 years, that should have been like class 6 or grade 6. So by this time, a child has already interacted with death. In this way. They have seen it on TV, they have watched the movies, especially action movies, and it's not just the boys, even the girls have watched it. They have seen pets die, or they have seen animals die. They may have heard of death from, or the death of somebody close to them, or their friends have experienced death. So it's not new. It may be new in this way that it has not come close home. They are closely attached to, okay? So by this time, the fact that they are teenagers means they could be in conflict in two ways. By the time you even go back to you being a teenager, once upon a time, there are times when you want to be a baby, but the other times you want to be independent and be an adult, like I am a grown-up. And then there are times that I'm like, why am I being left out? So there is that conflict of, yes, death has occurred. So should I melt into a puddle of emotions, or should I be strong and show that I am all grown up? So there's a lot of conflict when it comes to how do I process this? Should I melt or should I be bold? So by the time you're seeing this teenager, whether boy or girl, is trying to be strong, let them know that it's okay to melt into a puddle of emotions, and that doesn't make them any less stronger or to be less brave. Those synonyms. So for me, when it comes to that point, you need to be on the lookout for the adolescent who doesn't seem to be like experiencing that. And I'm not saying you rush them. I'm just saying be keen and observe them over a period of time. They will be in denial, especially because of the fact that they know death is final. They have conceptualized the fact that death means there's a finality to it. So the aspect of denial is like, for real, I am not going to see this person again. I'm not going to see my mom. I'm not going to see my dad. I'm not going to see Shosho. I'm not going to see Goka. I'm not going to see my sibling. I'm not going to. That finality hits them hard, because for them, there's this continuity. Like life is it's supposed to be all blissful and fun. Yes, they get hurt, but it's not you go forever. You're supposed to travel and then come back. So that finality hits hard, and there's a lot of denial, okay? Now, they may utilize spiritual concepts to cope. Remember, they are teenagers and or adolescents, and they are using the aspect of, they are finding out who they are, career-wise, friendship-wise. They may also be looking at the faith, this aspect of spirituality. So if there's something they are attached to, then they can move to that. because they are trying to make sense. So you also need to be aware of they can go towards a spiritual element to help them cope because they are in conflict and denial is really high. Then they can acknowledge that life is fragile. Yes, there's a finality to it, but by the way, I was not serious before, Oma. It's legit, like for real. Things can happen like that fast. And then remember, death comes in different ways. I'm not here to say this, I don't want to traumatize us. This is a learning platform, but death can come because I believe there's a someone who shared that in school one of their classmates died of food poisoning. There could be this aspect of we have heard in the news where they fight and then suddenly the children are no longer there. There could be those who, I believe even my nephew shared that this someone close to them who is sick. So when I say this, they are anxious. They know that life is fragile. So I'm saying just be careful and realize that this child, yes, they look like they're all grown up, but there's so many emotions. And I hope you have watched the movie Inside Out. If you haven't, I'll link up my video that I've done about how do you start talking about such heavy topics using movies or in particular animations, because Inside Out shows the different types of emotions and one of them is fear, and you need to address that. Then the reactions. So they have been informed that someone close to them is dead, deceased. Their body has stopped functioning. For them, I believe that by the time you use the word dead, they understand what that means. So they will be shocked. There will be anger. Remember the denial and shock? They can be angry, like, they can be pissed off. And that anger can come from anywhere and can be directed at anything, including the spiritual being or whoever they believe in. So they can be very angry and they can become very aggressive. Remember, hormones, teenagehood, then there's a lot of confusion. Okay, so now what? My dad, my mom, my is gone. So what? Does that mean my future comes to an end? So are we moving? Like there's a lot of confusion because by this time they're wondering, okay, so things are definitely going to change. They don't have to be told, they know. By the time they sit back and you're like, sheesh, things are thick. Okay? Then they can have regressive behaviors. Regress means they may have been all grown up. So it could be bedwetting, and I believe I talked about bedwetting because you have to look at bedwetting in two different ways, and I'll link up the video for that. Then by the time they can have regressive behavior. So by the time you look at regressive, it can be bedwetting. There are some who can even start biting their fingernails, and maybe they stopped. So it is basically behavior that is exhibited by a younger child, but is being exhibited by an older child. So they're trying to get to that fetal stage, like being the baby. So they do something to make them feel all nice and comfy. But they are running away from these uncomfortable emotions. They may hide their feelings. Remember, they're in denial, and then they're in conflict of, am I a grown-up? Am I a child? So they may hide their feelings. And then, as I've mentioned in my previous video, is if the family is not talking about the deceased, they will also go quiet because they realize that if I talk about dad, if I talk about mom, if I bring this topic up, it becomes this uncomfortable thing. So why not go quiet? And teenagers can go quiet on you, which is not a good thing all the time. Then they may fight, they may scream, they may argue. Basically, the emotions are exhibited in an outward way. Then they can be preoccupied with death. They want to find out, okay, so what is this death? How they died through this? Okay, so they may become, because they remember teenagehood, they want to investigate everything, and then they may take on mannerisms of the deceased, like in honor of he or she who has left us, who has died. They may take up those mannerisms. So how do you help? Those are just a few reactions. I'm not going to there are many, because remember, your child is different. But now, how do you help? Expect and accept mood swings. They already have mood swings. So in this case, you have to be like, okay, they might even get more. So you have to expect and accept that mood swings are up around the corner. Then allow for hidden feelings unless there's risk for harm. Please show that you can also be vulnerable, which gives them gives them the chance, the platform for them to also exhale and not just hold it in. Except for the time when there's harm, and this is now case by case, but emotions, expressing that, by the way, and you can cry together, you can just stay in silence together, but can you express emotions? Be available to talk and listen, and sometimes you may need to listen more than you're talking. So I'm here, and you might be in silence. But there's a phrase where you're told, if you get uncomfortable in silence and you want to talk, but the main objective was for you to listen, sit on your hands. Just put your hands under your sitting allowance, and then try as much as possible not to talk. Even though you're in silence, just sit and listen. If it's silence, still listen. You're together. Then encourage healthy expression of grief. That one we have mentioned. Please don't put away the photographs. You can have a memory book. You can put your photo albums. If there was a video, you can compile the videos. You can tell them, can you write down what your favorite memory is, what you'll miss about them? Let there be a healthy expression of grief. And then discuss role changes that may occur in the family structure. And if there's a firstborn, if there's a male, and even for the firstborn girl, the first male, they may start taking up a certain role, especially the older ones, they may want to step in. But even the younger ones, sometimes they can be chap. So yes, some roles will change, but let them be children. Let them not rush into adulthood by taking up the roles of the deceased. Okay? Then provide physical touch and say, I love you, I care for you often. Yes, they are grown up. Yes, they are independent. They want to be viewed as big and strong. But we all know that we need a hug. And the words, I love you, I care for you, as often as possible. And as I've said in our previous video, if it's a teenage boy, if it's not a frontal hug, it can be a side hug. Or just write small notes. If they're not okay with physical, because yes, they may want to distance, can you ensure, whether it's how you make your meal, how you write the notes, write them a letter, buy them, but ensure that they know they are cared for. So those are some of the tips when you're dealing with a teenager, either gender. But as I said, it would be interesting to find out, do boys and girls view grief or process grief in different ways? I believe that's a topic for another day. But thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for the feedback. And I believe you share this within your networks, because as I said, there's a child out there who could do with, or a guardian to a child, or a parent to a child who could do with this information at this moment. So see you in the next video. Bye-bye.